Hi friends, this is Chris. Welcome back to the channel. And this is your daily news. So CPI inflation data is out. I want to look at some of the headlines with you, look at some of the numbers, and let's just jump right in. So you can see here, U.S. inflation slows to 3% as interest rate rises bite and the dollar falls to 15-month low. And I can tell you, here in Korea, it was very, very noticeable that the dollar has really, really spiked to the downside. Moreover, we can take a look at this as well. Inflation at 3% flags end of emergency turning point for the Fed. So as of now, it's looking like inflation has peaked last year, but it doesn't necessarily mean that inflation is going away. And there is some debate on what the Fed will do next. So this particular one is saying, you can see the headline here, Fed hike this month is still likely, may be last, economists say. It's looking like the Fed will probably hike this month and then maybe one more time, or hike this month and then be done, but we'll see. I will say that most likely rates will still elevated. I wouldn't expect any cuts anytime soon like that. So I would say probably through the rest of the year and maybe into next year, we'll still see high interest rates. Do be aware though that there are a couple different measures. We have core CPI and then headline. So headline is your black line here. It's actually down. That's the 3%. But your core CPI, I believe, was something like 4.8, something like that. And so core is without food and energy accounted in. And if you actually read some of the details, and I'll look at some of the numbers with you as well, you can kind of see like what's going up and what's going down in terms of costs. You can see here, housing costs contribute to over 70% of the monthly advance in June. So this means your shelter/housing is still elevated, and that's sort of the main driver of inflation at the moment. Well, prices for airline fares and used cars decline. So I have no comment on used cars. I haven't bought one recently. I'd be curious if you guys say, hey, it looks like used cars are going down. I thought this was weird, though, the airline thing, because I just recently flew from Busan out to Baltimore, and it was horribly expensive. So I don't know about this. For me, airline prices still seem elevated, but if you guys have noticed any sort of break in that, let me know. Also, too, it's saying here, grocery prices, which have been a key source of financial strain for American families, were unchanged from a month earlier. So housing's up still, food is still expensive, but they're claiming airline and used cars are down. And the other thing is, too, is also you have services are still up. If you actually look at the actual numbers, I will tell you. So this is year over year, right, compared to last year. Food is up 5.7. Food away from home is up 7.7. So we've talked about this before on the channel, where if you're in the USA, it's like horribly expensive to go out to eat. Plus you have tax and you have tip. And the question is like, should you tip at Starbucks or not? And it's always fun to hear different opinions on that. But overall, though, food inflation away from home is still up. Now, the things that are down, though, energy is down 16.7% in particular. And this is sort of where the why you saw a big drop in headline inflation is essentially oil, down 36%. However, if you take a look at some of these other things, that's interesting. So new vehicles are up 4.1% year over year, yet is used cars and trucks are down 5.2%. And then you have services, less energy, that's up 6.2, shelters up 7.8, and then transportation's up 8.2. So it's interesting how many things are still increasing in price, right? Inflation. The big ones to the downside seem more like energy. If you take a look at some of the headlines, and also always love to hear from the community in your neck of the woods. Do you feel like housing prices are affordable, or do you think they're still out of reach? So these are some of the headlines I'm just reading here on July 12th. You can see here, housing market affordability is so out of whack that the bulk of drop in home prices is yet to come. That's sort of my feeling as well, that things are still expensive and we have not really seen a crash in housing prices. So I think things are expensive. That's my opinion. But like I said, I'd like to hear from your particular community as well. You can write in the comments. Here's another one. Also July 11th, just recently, home prices hit fresh record again, worsening supply shortage, right? We just don't have enough houses on the market. When you actually look at the charting here of where inflation is coming from, you can see the red line right here is housing, in fact. So it used to be energy, but now it's housing. And housing's a trickier one to, it's not going to like spike up and down like, say, energy could. Housing moves at a more glacial pace. Housing prices, you would think, would be coming down because I think the average 30-year mortgage is something like 7.5%, something like that. And I'd like to hear, what you guys are hearing, for those of you who are in the housing market, what it is. And housing prices, I believe, are still elevated. If you ask the Fed themselves, this is sort of like, asking community members survey, where do you think interest rates are going to go? This would indicate a either one hike or two hikes. So this idea that, no more hikes, I'm not seeing it, at least according to the dot plot of the survey. And also too, you can actually take a look at this here, is you're probably looking at a 0.25% increase. So the big interest rate increases like either 50 basis points or 75 is probably off the table. So you're probably looking at 25. But we'll see. You'll see it when you see it. But at the moment, the core inflation is still elevated. Like I said, this is CPI 4.8. It's just hard to control. And we're going to talk about some of the factors. One was housing, we talked about. One thing that's interesting, though, is that around the world, the dollar seems to be dropping. So this is like dollar's epic drop, right? And it is true. It was actually been a real big change. Just the last couple of days, I noticed it. And if you ever want to sort of track it, you can track, any paired currency. Evidently, though, I guess the Swedish krona is doing okay. Norway, Australian, New Zealand, the yen, Swiss franc. I'm just comparing it to the won. That's where I'm at. So $1 is equivalent to 1,275 won. This is in Korea. The high was like 1,400. So it is quite a big drop off than what it was the highest. Some of the things that I'm looking at in particular in terms of the world economy. Now, this is something I want to point out to you guys. If you want to be popular on YouTube, make it really simple. Only talk about America, talk about Bitcoin, Elon Musk and Tesla, etc. I like to talk about everything because I want you guys to be informed. It won't be popular because, already you lose viewers if you talk about everything, but I think it's more important to be informed than only talk about the popular topics. So it is what it is. I just wanted to mention that because do pay attention to China because, if they're not buying stuff, you can see your headlines. China economy gloom worsens with weak consumer spending data, right? If they're not buying stuff, it's hard for U.S. companies to sell stuff to set people, and you'll see headlines every now and then about youth unemployment is really high in China, and the factory production is slowing. Moreover, which I think is a really big one, and it's sad a lot of financial houses will talk about it, but I'm just telling you guys, it's real. Workers are threatening to go on strike in various industries. Essentially, workers want better working conditions, of course. You want better benefits, and you want more pay, which is natural, right? And when housing prices aren't coming down and you feel like things aren't affordable, you want to get paid more. So the actors in Hollywood may go on strike. The writers are already on strike. They've been on strike for, I want to say, well over a month. I can't remember. It's been a long time already. I believe the last day is going to be like Thursday. So we'll see if that ended up being a thing. Many productions, right? So your favorite TV shows like that have stopped making, new content. So when, say, like right now we're watching The Witcher, they're supposed to make another season, but they might, completely stop production on that. I'm not sure with, like, say, for example, the new Mission Impossible is pretty good, but part 2 may get delayed, like these kind of things, right? So you may have content now, but next year you may see the sort of the results of the strikes. The actors may go on strike. The writers are already on strike. Other ones as well, the UAW, so that's the United Auto Workers. I believe that's like GM, Ford, Stellantis. I'm not sure if any other, big auto are in there, but I guess they are going to be negotiating. And it's funny because, like, this is kind of a ceremonial thing. You can read the headlines. UAW nixes symbolic CEO handshake as auto industry labor talks begin. So I guess like the head of the UAW, and you're supposed to go and shake hands and take a picture, stuff like that, but refused to do that. So it's symbolic of like, we're not negotiating, et cetera, and he wanted to go talk to the workers. So if anyone is in the auto industry, I'd like to hear your point of view. If you feel like that your wages and benefits are keeping up with inflation in your neck of the woods, I'm sure they're going to want more. It's natural. Things cost more. You can take a look at this as well. UPS, I guess they had a practice protest. This was in Lexington. And this may be a thing. Let's see here. So the soonest would be, this is talking about UPS now. I guess it could be August 1st is when they may do a strike. So that's a couple weeks from now. So keep an eye on these. So we got the auto workers, UPS, and the actors. Also, another thing that I'm looking at as well, remember the U.S. is a consumer-based economy. Starting in October, so we're in July now, so still a couple of months, student loans are going to have to go back into repayment. I believe this is like 40 million Americans, so really a lot of people. And there's another thing that may get a lot of people as well is you may get bit by interest. So for those of you who have been making payments and everything's independent, of your situation, but if you're in a variable situation, term by interest, it could be in a world of hurt. So evidently, if you have 30K in debt, making no payments, you might be looking at it added another 1,500. So I think, I guess there was, how can I say, there was some debate on whether or not this interest would be added in or not. I was looking through this stuff, and this is right now, this is a political football thing. I've said it all along. I thought Biden's plan to just waive all student loans is pretty dumb, but I get it. It was a political move to appease a certain segment of voters, but I didn't think it ever had a chance to really go through. That is what it is. Moreover, keep an eye on this one. Americans have $1 trillion in credit card debt, and this is when interest rates are going up and they still elevated, and then you add in on top of people certainly they're making essentially their student loan payments. You get a lot of people that just miscalculated the same way that you have companies that miscalculate. So changing interest rates affect everything, and I get it. The market's been pumping and stuff like that, and it's like odd when you read all these things that are happening. Inflation is still up, and this is something that I will stress over and over again. Markets be crazy, and the market can stay, crazy longer than you can stay solvent. I think the exact quote is the markets can be irrational longer than you can be solvent. But essentially, markets be crazy, and the big ones is something like an Nvidia. I think the PE ratio on something like that is like 200, which is insane. But it is what it is, right? If a bunch of memesters and people on TV want to pump said thing and get people to buy it, that's how it happens. But I do believe ultimately things do trade on the fundamental value. Although to be fair, we do live in a world with cryptocurrency where it's like, how do you know the fundamental value of those things at all, right? You don't. It's just like, well, I guess everyone wants to buy it. So the reason why I mentioned all these things included is because ultimately, if people got to pay back their debts, and if people aren't getting paid enough, and housing still costs a lot, where are they going to get the money to buy, crypto? Where are they going to get the money to buy, said products? Because remember, the U.S. is consumer based, and for companies to make money / stocks go up, if they are on fundamental values, you need people to be buying stuff. Now, someone did ask the question. I can make a separate video about, do stocks only go up? Not necessarily. However, to be fair, the way that our system works is that many of our retirements just go into, index fund, which kind of spreads all out. So there's always money coming in, and companies do have fundamental values, but it just seems like that much of the growth in companies are slowing and valuations are high. Plus interest rates are going to stay elevated. So that's my general opinion on this kind of stuff. But overall, when you look at all these things, the best advice right now is make sure you're secure in your job, make sure you're getting paid enough, make sure you got the skills where people are going to want to pay you. And if you're, in variable interest loan things, you got to get that stuff paid off because interest rates aren't coming down anytime soon. So do appreciate everyone's time. Please share and comment on this kind of stuff, and I'll catch you next video.